You wake up to the sound of distant jazz and the soft tremble of footsteps crossing a wooden hallway. At first, you think you're dreaming, because nothing about this place feels real. The air tastes of cigarette smoke and night rain. A violin moans somewhere below you, and voices rise in laughter, echoing through walls painted with fading gold. When you finally open your eyes, you are not in your bed, you are lying on a narrow iron frame cot under a skylight in Paris. The year is written on the newspaper crumpled beneath your hand, 1924. Your breath catches. Your skin is not the skin you remember. Your hands are slender, ink-stained, your nails bitten from late-night worries, your hair, spilling over your shoulders, is a wild black tangle that smells faintly of turpentine and cheap lavender soap. You are not you. You are a bohemian woman in the heroine craze era of 1920s Paris, a time when dreams burned as bright as the street lamps in Montparnasse, yet every alley hid a shadow waiting to swallow them whole. And someone is knocking on your door, whispering your name, a name you don't yet know how to answer to. You inhale, heart pounding. Because whatever awaits you behind that thin wooden door is the beginning of a story you never expected to live. You sit up slowly, the thin blanket slipping off your shoulders. The attic studio is freezing, lit only by the pale morning threading through the skylight. The knock comes again, gentle, urgent. Elise. You awake? So that is your name. Elise. Your voice trembles as you try it. Yes. I'm awake. A sigh of relief comes from the other side. The door opens, and a woman enters, tall, with the soft face of someone who has suffered too quietly for too long. Her brown hair is braided loosely, paint stains freckling her smock. She looks at you with eyes both worried and relieved. Oh, thank God, she whispers. You frightened me. You slept so deeply last night I thought, well, I feared the worst. She doesn't need to say the word. In 1924 Paris, the worst haunts every corner. The heroine craze is sweeping Montparnasse like an invisible fire, destroying artists, lovers, dreamers, one by one. You don't know what Elise's life was before you arrived in it, but you feel its weight instantly. The woman steps closer. It's me, Clara. Don't you remember? We were supposed to bring your paintings to the gallery today. Your heart thumps. Paintings. A gallery. A life you haven't lived, but must inhabit. When Clara touches your arm, her fingers tremble with quiet desperation, like she needs you to be okay so she doesn't fall apart herself. Come on, she urges gently. The world won't wait for us. Not even when we're tired. You nod, following her down the shaky wooden stairs. The hallway smells of coffee, cigarette smoke, and damp coats. On the second floor, someone is practicing trumpet. On the first, a couple argues in slurred French. Down the street, a baker's oven sends warm scents drifting into the cold. This building is alive with struggling artists. It beats like a hungry heart. Outside, Paris stretches endlessly beneath a sky the color of pearl. Streetcars rattle along wet cobblestones. A group of American jazz players smokes outside a café, laughing in accents full of hope and heartbreak. A painter with an easel argues with a policeman about public obstruction. Girls with red lipstick and worn stockings hurry to their jobs, or to lovers waiting in warm apartments. You are breathless. Overwhelmed. Captivated. Clara hands you a wrapped package, your supposed paintings. You worked all week for this, she says softly. I think it will finally be your moment. Your moment. The words feel both foreign and fragile. As you walk with Clara toward the gallery, she fills the silence with stories you're supposed to know, stories that begin stitching together the identity of the woman whose life you've borrowed. You hardly slept, Clara murmurs. You've been tense for days. You kept saying you feared you weren't good enough. But you are, Elise. You've always been better than you believe. Her eyes drift down. Better than any of us. You study her face, gentle, determined, exhausted. She isn't just your friend. She is someone who depends on you, someone who has fought her own darkness and still finds light in others. When you reach the gallery, the warm glow inside clashes with your nerves. People mill about, wealthy patrons with cold eyes, young artists trying to be noticed, critics pretending to be indifferent. A man approaches, thin, stylish, with a cigarette hanging from his lips. "Elise," he greets. "Clara. You're late." Clara stiffens. "We're exactly on time." The man only shrugs. "Come. Show me what brilliance you brought today." You hand him the bundle. He unwraps your paintings with a flourish, revealing bold strokes, fierce colors, portraits of women who look like they have fought wars no one else sees. The man studies them. His expression doesn't change. "They won't sell," he says simply. Clara's hands ball into fists. "They're beautiful." "They're tragic," he corrects. "People don't buy tragedy. Not when they can buy flowers." Your stomach drops. Heat rushes to your face. Even though you didn't paint these pieces, you feel the rejection like a blow. "But," the man adds lazily, "I might consider including one in the spring exhibit. If Elise attends the club tonight." There are patrons who enjoy meeting fresh talent. His gaze slides over you in a way that makes your skin crawl. Clara steps between you. She doesn't need your patronage. He raises an eyebrow. Doesn't she? The silence is colder than the winter air outside. You leave the gallery feeling hollow. As you walk back through the busy streets, Clara squeezes your hand. "You don't need them, Elise. We'll find another way." Her voice cracks slightly, betraying her own fears. Back at the studio building, a young man waits by the entrance, nervous, clutching a newspaper. His clothes are neat but worn, his hair tousled as though he ran here. "Elise," he breathes in relief, "I came as soon as I heard. They say the police raided the cafe again. They're arresting anyone selling drugs." You blink. "Do I know you?" He laughs softly, hurt flickering in his eyes. "It's me. Julian." You say nothing, because you can't. But he mistakes your silence. "Are you all right?" he asks. You look pale. Clara steps in. "It was the gallery. They treated her horribly." Julian's jaw tightens. "They never deserved her work anyway." He walks you upstairs, staying close, protective in a way that feels both comforting and strangely intimate. You realize, slowly, he cares for Elise. Deeply. Maybe more than he dares to say. When you reach your studio, Julian hesitates at the door. "If you need anything, anything at all, you know where to find me." When he leaves, Clara collapses into a chair, burying her face in her hands. You kneel beside her. "What's wrong?" Her voice is barely a whisper. "Elise. Last winter, I almost lost you to heroin. You were so tired. So broken. You said it made the world feel softer. But it nearly took you from us." Your chest tightens. "She's been terrified for you," Clara continues. "We both have. A weight settles on you, heavy and cold. This life is not just beautiful Paris nights and artistic dreams. It is pain. Fear. Temptation. Shadows." And Elise, your borrowed self, was already standing dangerously close to losing everything. As night falls outside and the streets glow with golden lamps, you sit with Clara, your heartbeat quiet but steady. You realize something then. You have been given a chance, not just to live her life, but to save it. For her. For Clara. For Julian. For all the lost artists drowning in the shadows of Montparnasse. And for yourself, whoever you truly are beneath this borrowed skin. The chapter closes in the dim light of the studio as jazz drifts in from the street, and you whisper a promise into the night. "I will not be swallowed by this city. Even if it tries its hardest." Night in Paris feels like another universe. The streets glow gold. The cafés pulse with music and voices thick with dreams. But beneath it all, the shadows move. Silently. Patiently. You stand at your attic window, watching the city breathe, when Clara knocks softly behind you. Are you sure you want to go? She asks. You turn. To the club? She nods. You don't owe them anything. I know, you say quietly. But maybe I owe myself the chance to be brave. She studies your face, searching for the fractured pieces she remembers. But you hold her gaze steadily. I have to face this, Clara. After a long moment, she nods and hands you her shawl. Then I'm coming with you. The club is a world of noise and smoke. The air smells of whiskey, sweat, and perfume. Laughter bursts like fireworks. A jazz trio plays in a corner while dancers move like drifting sparks. Painters argue about philosophy. Writers scribble lines on napkins. Musicians tune their instruments with closed eyes and hungry hearts. It is intoxicating. And dangerous. A server offers a tray of drinks. Another offers something else, thin glass vials filled with pale powder. Heroine. The deadliest companion of the 1920s Parisian dreamer. One man whispers, it makes inspiration come easier. Another murmurs, it makes the world feel soft. Clara grips your wrist. Elise, don't. I know, you assure her. But the temptation hangs in the air like perfume. Julian arrives moments later, breathless, pulling you away before anyone notices the hunger in the room. You shouldn't be here, he tells you softly. Not tonight. Why, you ask? He glances around. Police informants. Dealers. Desperate artists. This place is dangerous even when it pretends not to be. Your chest warms, because he isn't scolding you. He's protecting you. Years slipped away after Jesse's death, the same way the wind wears down the edges of a stone. The Wild West that had once echoed with hooves and gunfire began to fall silent. The dust settled on empty roads, and the once restless towns grew still. There were no more outlaw gangs hiding in canyons, no more telegraph lines cut in the night. The land itself seemed to sigh, as if the story it had been telling was finally over. But memory has a strange way of refusing to fade. People could not forget Jesse James, the boy preacher's son who became the most feared man in America. His name lived on, whispered in saloons and sung around campfires. And like all legends, the truth became softer over time, reshaped by longing and nostalgia. The newspapers that once called him a murderer now called him a folk hero. Pain became poetry, and history became a bedtime story. In Kearney, Missouri, where Jesse had been born, his mother, Zerelda, lived on. Her hair turned silver, her back bent, but her voice never lost its fire. She told stories to anyone who came by the old James farmhouse, stories that painted her son not as a killer, but as a brave young man wronged by the world. People came from miles away just to meet her. She would sit on her porch, the evening light falling across her weathered hands, and speak of Jesse with both pride and sorrow. He was a good boy, she'd say, her eyes glistening, just born in a hard time. Visitors paid small coins to see Jesse's grave, and she used that money to survive. Some came out of curiosity, others out of reverence. They'd leave flowers, old bullets, or notes, as if asking forgiveness from a man they'd never known. The James farm became a place where myth and memory met, half museum, half shrine. And for Zerelda, it was her way of keeping him close. But time moves on, even for legends. The railroads connected the coasts, cities grew taller, and the Wild West became just another story for the new century. By the time the 1900s arrived, the last of the old outlaws were gone. The new generation had no memories of horses and dusty trails, they had cars and electric lights. And yet, when people read about Jesse James, they still felt something. A strange mix of fear and admiration. Maybe because Clara follows, breath trembling. You huddle together beneath a flickering lamp as police whistles echo in the distance. I don't want this life anymore, you whisper. I don't want this darkness. Julian cups your face gently. Then choose something else, Elise. What if I can't, you ask, voice cracking. You already are, he murmurs. You breathe in sharply, because you believe him. The walk home through the quiet midnight streets feels like waking from a fever dream. The city is calmer now, gentler. As though Paris understands you are trying to rise from its shadows. Back at the studio, Clara wraps a blanket around your shoulders. You were so strong tonight, she whispers. I was scared. She smiles. Being strong doesn't mean you aren't scared. It means you showed up anyway. Later, when Julian leaves but hesitates at your door, you touch his hand softly. Thank you, you whisper. He smiles, a fragile, hopeful smile. I just want you to stay alive, Elise. When he leaves, you sit alone at your small desk beneath the skylight, staring at the empty canvas before you. For the first time, it doesn't look like a challenge. It looks like a promise. You dip your brush into paint and begin to create, not from fear, but from clarity. You paint a woman standing on a Paris rooftop at dawn, her hair wild, her eyes steady, her heart fiercely alive. You paint yourself, not as someone lost in the shadows, but as someone stepping out of them. Hours pass. Dawn glows pink across the sky. Clara wakes and sees your finished work. Tears fill her eyes. It's beautiful, she whispers. It's hope, you reply softly. Later that week, the wealthy patron returns to your studio, honoring his promise. He sees your new painting and smiles gently. This, he says, is the work of someone who chose to live. And he arranges your private exhibition. The night of the show, you stand among paintings that tell the story of a woman who fell, suffered, broke, and healed. The attendees admire your work with quiet awe. Clara stands on your left, proud. Julian stands on your right, hopeful. And you, Elise, and yet not Elise, feel a warmth you haven't felt since arriving in this borrowed life. A woman approaches and asks softly, Mademoiselle, what inspired these pieces? You take a breath, deep, steady. Waking up, you say simply. Waking up, and choosing not to drown. The words settle in the room like a final brushstroke. And as the lights glow and the world feels soft, not from smoke or illusions, but from strength, you realize your story has not ended. It has begun.